The Unhappy Hour on the new AmericanMedia.com.
Broadcasting to you live from the Milky Way galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, California, Los Angeles to be specific. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Unhappy Hour here on the TNAM radio network at the new AmericanMedia.com. My name is Brian Engelman, and I am going to be your host, and we are talking, what do you think we're talking about? We're talking basketball. Talking basketball. Where's LeBron going to end up? What is a mock draft going to look like now that Joel Embiid broke his foot and the Cavs just hired a new head coach? So please do us a favor. Check out our homepage, thenewamericanmedia.com, and on the bottom right of that, it has our Facebook page. You can like that and follow us on Twitter. We're at American_media_. We're going to jump right into things and bring in Zak Baris, lifelong Cleveland sports fan, NBA scout, and we're going to kind of cover everything that's going on right now, which is quite a bunch of significant stuff if you're a Cavs fan. As we are here on the new AmericanMedia.com, we make no bones about it. We do not pretend that we're anything other than what we are, which is homers. You know, I root for the Indians, the Cavs, the Browns, the Buckeyes. You know, it's called the Unhappy Hour because I've never celebrated a professional Cleveland professional championship in my lifetime, and I would sure like to do so. I would really like to do that. So let's find out what's going on with the Cavs. New head coach, draft, LeBron, question mark. A lot going on.
Hey, Brian, how you doing?
Zach, I'm living the dream, buddy. You're on the air live. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good.
Yeah.
No complaints.
I'm good. Welcome to the show, man. I'm kind of good, too. There's so much going on. I feel like I never stop talking basketball. But this really is a huge, significant week for the Cleveland Cavaliers, the NBA in general. So much going on. LeBron, what's going to happen? Pat Riley's move, what did that really do? How does Joel Embiid's injury shake up the draft? Can we get a mock draft through the first 15 picks possibly? And who's the new head coach of the Cavs? So I kind of want to split this show up into segments so when we post it later, it will be its own thing. So let's first talk about the new head coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers. I'm not very familiar with him other than he looks like Manu Ginobili.
No, David Blatt, though, has had success everywhere the guy's been. I believe his record was like 225-55. Over the coach of Maccabi Tel Aviv. He took Russia to a bronze medal in the Olympics a few years ago. I mean, everywhere the guy's gone, he's won. Yeah, his basketball style, it's almost like he's a Euro version of the Spurs. And when I say that, I mean it's very team-oriented basketball, not propelled just by one individual. So, I mean, it doesn't mean, they can't have a superstar. Teams that play good basketball necessarily have the superstars play along, with the talent around them, and they can make the talent around them better. Obviously we saw that in Cleveland for 7 years with LeBron, especially
Absolutely.
in his last 2 years, by making the talent around him that much better. And I think this is why those Cleveland teams won more games in Cleveland, because LeBron was able, he was able to be the focal point of that offense in Cleveland and make his teammates better. And Dip, trust me, when LeBron left, I had no clue that was going to be an whatever they won, 18, 19 games that season, that next year. I thought they'd win more in the Lions in the 30s. And, I mean, a lot of it, they were decimated by injuries, but that's what a good player can do, and good coaching can really help, help organize a team like that. So, before we get into the whole LeBron talk, getting back to David Blatt, I think, is definitely a nice option for the Cavs. He's something unique. There's a reason why Mark Jackson, my teams haven't been knocking on his door this offseason. There are a lot of available jobs. I don't know why. I mean, I've said my reasons in the past. And I'm just going to go with that he clashes with ownership and management and his other assistant coaches. So, but, the players do love him, but I think the Cavaliers may have hired the best guy on the market. Tyrone Lue, from what I've heard, didn't have, with LeBron, I apparently did not love Tyrone Lue. What Chris Broussard was saying about LeBron, I really don't, I'm not buying that one bit, though.
Which was what?
My source, one of my sources today I was speaking with this afternoon, we were just texting, And he goes, do you think this diminishes the chances of LeBron coming back? And I said, absolutely not. He goes, don't you think LeBron wants to play for a big-name coach? I go, he played for Spoelstra. Spoelstra was nothing when LeBron went to Miami, and that's something don't forget. If LeBron can go in there and mold a coach to play, to go into his style of play, any coach in the league is going to try to adapt to that. And a good coach will actually be able to do that. And that's something that Eric Spoelstra was able to do in Miami. He was able to, adapt his coaching style to LeBron's style of play.
And he's going to be the right coach because Calipari was offered a boatload. What was it? A 10-year contract for $80 million, and this one is for 3 years with a fourth-year option. But
the thing with Calipari is, though, the Cavaliers, this one too. If David Blatt doesn't work out, it's a quick exit. That's another thing you have to think of too. 3 years and $10 million is nothing in this day in the NBA. But if he meets his incentives, he'll be getting $5 million a year. And something tells me he'll, I think it's very good. Also, from what I understand as of this afternoon, as soon as Blatt, was hired, this is just my source close to Kyrie Irving, said that, Kyrie was very happy with the move after speaking with him. So that was what I got out of it.
Can you elaborate on that?
Not much, no.
Can you say it a little differently so I can make sure I understood it?
All I can say was I was texting my friend while he was supposed to be with Kyrie, and Kyrie hadn't shown up yet, and he was because he was on the phone with Dave Blatt, and apparently when he got there, he said he was very pleased with it and very excited.
Interesting, and I've seen Kyrie Irving in batting practice with the Cleveland Indians. Kyrie Irving came to my hometown, my high school alma mater, wearing a Brunswick Blue Devil jersey, which was pretty cool. So I see him getting out there, connecting with high schoolers, connecting with the baseball team in town. I mean, all the stories of Kyrie being unhappy, yeah, he's unhappy losing. Who wouldn't be unhappy losing? But it to me, it just kind of seems like, especially taking batting practice with the Tribe, to me, it seems like Kyrie wants to sign his big deal and stay here. That's what the impression I'm getting.
From what I got today out of it is, like I said, this is no guarantee because I didn't hear it from Kyrie's mouth directly. So from what I heard today, though, and what I've been hearing over the past week, it went from saying, nothing was ever saying Kyrie wasn't signing the extension. What I'm getting out of it now is that when he's offered, my guess is that he will be signing the extension. From the news I got, from the news I've received, is that's my impression, is that he will be signing the extension. Take it for what it's.
Yeah, for what it's worth, of course.
The Cavaliers can offer the extension as of July 1st, and he can sign after that. I tend to think he will. I don't think it's looking as bleak as it once was, after the season with, there's a lot of stuff going on. So I just don't think it's as bleak as it was. Let's put it that way. I think the chances are much higher. I'd put them, in that upper higher percentile now. I'm not saying it's 50, 60%. I'm saying it's higher than that. But I'm not going to sit there and put it at 100%. Where I'd put it is probably somewhere in the, 90 percentile, somewhere in that range. You never know. Guys can always change their mind. But that's why I'd probably, I just don't, I think it's too much money to pass up upon. I think if Kyrie's smart, he'll take it. And, he's a smart kid, and his dad's a bright guy. That he doesn't come from, it's not like he's coming from, it's not like he's uneducated. It's not like he's coming from the middle of the ghetto. And even if he was, but this is a kid who has a sense of money. This is a kid who, when he was drafted, didn't go out there and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on new cars. This is a kid who got a $65,000 car, when he was drafted by the Cavs after his first contract. So he's very modest. And I think he's a smart kid. I think he'll do the right thing, and I think he will sign the extension.
And so then that brings me to Pat Riley's outburst yesterday, and kind of really putting pressure on LeBron James to, stay the course and calm down, and So I guess a couple of questions. How do you think Pat Riley's comments are going to reverberate off the James camp? Because I heard it. I forget who was saying it. I wish I could attribute it. But it was that
if you're talking about the reporter in Orlando, please don't even...
Wait, no, hold on. I don't even know where I'm going. I don't know who it is. You can tell me about the reporter in Orlando. But what I heard discussing Pat Riley was that he was projecting strength and revealing huge weakness.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it was. I mean, with Pat Riley, Pat Riley's a brilliant, brilliant man. In order to be able to lure LeBron James to Miami 4 years ago, you can't put anything past the guy. Now, I tend to think Pat Riley was taking desperate measures the other day because he was. Miami's in a hole right now. Here's the problem. You've got a 40-year-old Dwayne Wade, and I'm not saying he's actually 40, but he's playing like he's 40 years old. And so you've got Dwayne Wade, who's most likely going to opt in. And you got to worry, is Chris Bosh really worth the max? That's number two. And number three is, does LeBron want to come back to that situation? Like I said, Birdman's gone. Chalmers stinks. You can get Norris Cole back for not much. And, and looking at the rest of the team, you're going to lose guys like Battier. You're most likely going to lose your Ray Allens. I mean, look how much Miami suffered this finals without Mike Miller. Mike Miller was a huge proponent last year of why they won. Don't forget, remember that game where he drained 5 for 5. He was 5 for 5 on three-pointers. I mean, Mike Miller was a huge piece to the puzzle last year in Miami. As bad as he was in the regular season, he was fantastic in the playoffs last year. He
was, yeah.
Miami would not have won the finals without Mike Miller last year or Ray Allen. And Shane Battier was also a pivotal piece last year. This year, Shane Battier was, he didn't even log legitimate minutes in this finals. I think he played game 1 and part of game 2, and you really didn't see him the rest of the series. You saw him play minimal minutes. And it's definitely a concern for Miami because Pat Riley's going to sit there and play the pitch now. I don't know if that pitch is really going to work with Mickey Harrison's, reluctant. He's very reluctant to go on the luxury tax last year because they've been spending such high amounts.
That's what Riley was saying, though. He's saying, hey, the perception that our owner's not willing to spend, we will do whatever it takes. So I'm sure they've talked. I'm sure he's saying you can make more money even while paying the luxury tax. But if you lose LeBron, your arena is gonna be half empty, if not worse, and your team.
Well, it's already half empty with LeBron half the time. So
fair enough.
At least until the third quarter.
Yeah, people were saying, what will Heat fans do the first time LeBron comes back to play him as a Cavalier? And I replied, what? No, I replied, what Heat fans? And that was just kind of taking a little pot shot at him. They can't really. I don't know. Florida sports fans are just a little. They don't really support. Look at the Marlins. Anyway, whatever the case may be. I've been hearing some other options for LeBron, other places he might be able to play, and of course the Carmelo rumors. So walk me through the possibility that he goes to Houston, because I'm hearing that they can offload some contracts like Jeremy Lin, Omar Ashik, and get LeBron in there somehow to team up with Dwight Howard. And do you think that's a possibility?
Do I think what?
Do you think it's a possibility?
Oh, I think it's a huge possibility. I think it's a very strong one. I think Melo's choices right now are, and I'm just going to put this: it's stay in New York for your max money, or you go to Texas. Here's the thing: people keep saying, "Oh, well, it's Melo can take the 5 years, 126, or he can take 4 for 96." And
New York taxes to Texas taxes. Wow, big difference.
Well, also the cost of living in New York. There's a difference. In order to have a decent apartment in New York, Carmelo, and I'm talking about athlete standards, you're looking at a minimum of $10 million apartment. Living on Carmelo's standards. In Texas, in Houston, you can buy a $4 or $5 million house, and you're going to get 10 times the land. You're going to get 150 times the land, and you're going to get a much bigger house. It's it just depends what you like. And Melo obviously loves the city, but at the same time, Texas has no state income tax.
Yeah, I know. It's tough to compete in that environment, actually. What are the chances LeBron ends up over there?
I think 0%. I think the problem is if LeBron winds up in Houston, of course they're going to make their run at him. And, if LeBron's going to shock me again, this is the time I think I'd be more shocked than him going to Miami. Because that would just mean it would literally define LeBron as a ring chaser. Even though LeBron would still be the leader of that team. And I don't think LeBron and Dwight match up well with each other. I really don't. And that's a talk for a whole other conversation if and when he joins Houston. But I'm not saying actually, I want to say it's more than 0%. I'll put it at 1 to 2% because you got to give it some. Okay. And I think I just can't envision LeBron in Houston. With me right now, I think honestly, I believe it's Miami, Cleveland, with that slight chance of the Clippers clearing that cap space, and that's it. As long as Ballmer's in charge by that point. And if that's the case, then I think LA has a decently legitimate shot at LeBron, but from what I get out of it, it's that it's probably going to be Cleveland is my guess at this point, or Miami. And it's just hard for me to picture him in Chicago. It's hard for me to picture him in Houston. The only three places I can see him in next year are Miami, Cleveland, or LA.
And of course, there's no way of knowing. Yeah, there's no way of knowing. There's no way of knowing. The Sterling thing has the Clippers thing completely up in the air. He will not let go of the team. This is going to drag out for a very long time, and it might really, really benefit the Cavs and the Heat in their chances of getting LeBron back.
Yeah, and I also mentioned, I've mentioned the Clippers many times on the show, and I mentioned mid-season thinking they were the front runners for LeBron next year.
Yep, you have. You've
talked
about that.
This isn't an idea I threw out after reading a column last week. I've been saying this on the show for months.
Yeah, I don't like hearing it. I mean, I'd have to watch him in my own backyard. It's okay, he's in the Eastern Standard time zone, let alone I got to have him in my own backyard not playing for my favorite team. That would suck. But that's the thing. I don't want to pin all my hopes on LeBron James. So, I mean, when does he have to opt out by? That's the middle of next week, right before the draft?
Actually, from what I was mistaken when I said June 24th. That was for someone else. He is, I believe, June 30th, and I think they even get that July 1st cutoff date because they're grandfathered in because of when their contracts were signed. So I believe they have until July 1st.
Okay, they have until July 1st.
My guess is at this point, I cannot see him opting in. I just don't see it being likely.
Okay, so that's going to happen after.
If he opts in, Miami has absolutely zero flexibility to go out and sign free agents. So my guess is either he's signing a deal with another team or he's signing a deal with Miami. And it's very hard for me to picture him long term. I think it's looking as bleak as ever that he returns to Miami. Now, he might go and return. I'm not saying he won't. I'm just saying I tend to think at this point, as long as Cleveland can do it right, by acquiring someone, whether that be LaMarcus Aldridge, who I think you'd have to give up a farm to get, which very tough for me envisioning the Cavaliers being able to get LaMarcus Aldridge, and very unlikely for Kevin Love without giving up that number one overall pick. Because I think Minnesota is very reluctant to trade Kevin Love right now for some reason. I think Flip Saunders is holding out. And then you go and you take other options and you say, okay, who are our secondary ones? Now do we trade the number one overall and we get Derek Favors at, in the number 5? We still might be able to land Joel Embiid at 5. We'll take that risk because we're already getting a proven player. Derek Favors is a future All-Star. He really is. Derek Favors is a really good player. I think he'd match up nicely with LeBron and Kyrie. And, you're bringing in a proven talent. Or maybe Dante Exum's on the board at 5. There will be good players available at 5.
Yeah, but this is a franchise that needs great. Kyrie was a hit. Anthony Bennett was a bust. LeBron before that was a hit.
Bennett was not a bust. Bennett's played 1 year in the league. He was not in shape last year. Everything that I've heard about Anthony Bennett this year is that he's already dropped 15 to 20 pounds. He's doing 2-a-day practices, even 3-a-days. He stopped eating all the crap, and he looks much better in the gym. He looks like he did while he was in college, even better. So he's been training over at Impact Basketball Academy in Las Vegas. Everything about Bennett this year, I'm telling you right now, Cleveland fans will be shocked to see what a bunch better year Bennett has if he's on that team. I'm telling you right now.
If that's the case, do you think Chris Grant got the axe too quick?
No. He deserved the axe. In 4 years to put together a team with a bunch of number one overall picks and couldn't do it. And like I said, this is a man who failed at drafting a center. This is a guy, Jonas Valanciunas failed at that one. Like I said, I wasn't a huge Valanciunas fan until I saw him at the end of the year when he just killed it, especially in the first round of the playoffs. He really was a star and a difference maker. I think he'd be much better with the Cavs now. But, and look at Thompson. Thompson's going nowhere. I've been waiting for Thompson to take that considerable leap every year now. And I have. I was always, his first year I was a big fan of Thompson. I was like, okay, this guy's got a ton of potential. And we've seen the same numbers now for 3 years out of the kid.
Where's the jump?
There's been no improvement on either end. So, he failed with the Andre Drummond. When he went to take a risk, he failed in landing Andre Drummond. I mean, it's center after center. He hasn't hit on yet. So, I mean, in center, I think if the Cavaliers would have drafted Andre Drummond, we'd be in a whole different scenario right now. Granted, I also don't think they'd have the number one overall pick. But you never know.
Okay, well, let me just ask you this, because you're still prepared to do a mock draft, right? We had talked about that a little bit.
Kind of, yeah. I'm semi-prepared, yeah.
All right. Well, then how about this? Now that Joel Embiid, to talk about what happened with him, how that impacts his possibility of being taken at number one. If not number one, how far could he fall?
I don't think he falls past 4 or 5, truthfully. Looking at it, I don't think he falls past Utah at 5, guaranteed. And so here's what happens now. This shakes up the big three at the beginning of the draft, because before it's almost a guarantee as if Wiggins, Parker, or Embiid was the number one overall pick. Guaranteed. Now you're sitting there and saying, okay, it's most likely going to be Wiggins. Now it could even be Parker. It could even be the Cavaliers could come out and surprise everyone and take Dante Exum. I don't know.
I've been hearing that they really like him.
I'm not buying those smoke screens as much. If it was Chris Grant, I'd be sitting there buying them because it was Chris Grant. The guy was always looking to create some kind of news by not selecting the favorable pick. So, I mean, I tend to think that the Cavaliers would take Andrew Wiggins at this point, but let's see how Jabari's work. I think Jabari was in Cleveland working out today, and I don't know how his workout went. I have absolutely no clue how his workout went.
All right, well, that makes two of us. So what is your gut saying? What is your gut saying? This is the week. It is time for you to draw your line in the sand, cast your vote. Who do the Cavs select? Now that we have our head coach, David Blatt, do you think he's going to have any – I mean, he'll obviously have input, but who on the Cavs is going to make the call? Because it kind of seems like Gilbert's pulling all the strings.
Well, that's what it seems like, but the same thing, we don't know that. I mean, my guess is David Griffin.
Okay, so if David Griffin gets to make the call – Who are the Cavs going to take? Who should they take? Is that the same person? It's time. It is the week of the draft. I cannot push this back any longer.
I think it's more set that they take Andrew Wiggins.
You think he's the guy because of his defense, because he has the highest ceiling, because of he's going to mesh with Kyrie, because we can't even think about LeBron. If that happens, fine, everything will work out. But we got to just think of Kyrie and the rest of the team now. So you think he's going to be the best fit, or he's the best superstar? For what reason? Why do we take Wiggins?
Hold on 1 second.
Yeah. No, I can hold on a second. I'll let people know if they haven't.
I had a bloody nose. I'm sorry. It was just... Oh, bloody nose.
Well, you could have kept that to yourself, but I appreciate knowing that.
Well, all right. So getting back to it.
Hold on. I was gonna tell people while you were doing that. I was just gonna say make sure you follow him on Twitter. He's at Zbaris. That's ZBARIS. Because I'm sure you're gonna have a lot of commentary rolling between now and draft time. But yeah, let me get back to it. You're saying Andrew Wiggins for the main reason why.
I like Wiggins' long-term potential. I think Jabari is ready to come in there and score now. But the thing is, also another thing is you have to think is, when have you ever seen a rookie shooter come in and shoot close to 50% his rookie year in the league and make a difference offensively? That's one of the things where I think Parker is ready offensively, but he's not going to come in there and put you crazy numbers up and give you 25 a game by shooting 48, 49% and taking it with a really high true shooting field goal percentage and take your team deep in the playoffs. It's not going to happen, which is why I go with Wiggins. Yeah, he might be a little more indecisive, but he's coming in there with Kyrie already, and Waiters can score the basketball too. So why don't you bring in Wiggins? He's already ready. He's an NBA-ready defender. He really is. He really is ready on the defensive end. I bring Wiggins in. And plus what I've seen from him, he put up some 40-point games last year. He did have some big games.
Maybe not toward the end of the year when a lot of people were expecting to see it, but he has skill.
But, yeah. And, number 2, I have Jabari going.
Well, hold on. Let's do this. Hold on, Jabari at 2, but I'm going to do a reset because like I said, I'm going to split these up in post-production. So the first one will be talking about David Blatt and the Cavs and where they go from here. And what we'll do is we'll take a quick reset here on the TNAM radio network here at the Unhappy Hour, and we're going to do our little mock draft. It's time, man. This is a fun time. Cavs hire a coach. Cavs have the number 1 pick. LeBron is at least it's at least a possibility, if not a strong possibility, that LeBron comes back. Before I reset, I wanted to ask this question about LeBron. The reports from last week or from 2 weeks ago that his children have enrolled in Akron school, but now there's a report that his wife is also pregnant, and I heard something in the press conference from LeBron where he was saying it's all about family. It's all about family. I got to do what's right for my family. Does that mean that he's returning to his roots? Are you reading anything like that into it?
I can't sit there and read between the lines, but if you are going to read between the lines,
that's my job.
I think that's something that would indicate that. I think it does. I mean, like I said, maybe it's something. Is Miami the best place to raise children? No, it's a terrible place to raise your kids. It really is. I think in Akron, like you said, he has that sense of home. And especially it depends. If he's training over the next few weeks at SVSM. It's a school he's always loved. It's a school I think he envisions sending his kids to. And his kids growing up in Akron. I think that does make a difference to him. I think he wants that. And this is why I've been saying Cleveland for the past 3 years now. He had his chance. He went out there, won some rings. I think he comes back. I think he'll be a hero again if he comes back. I think he wants that statue someday. I think he wants that jersey up in the rafters. And after 4 years ago, looking back on it, and people would say in 4 years from now, LeBron has a chance to be the hero again. I mean, I've always thought the thing is, I said from the day he left, I said, I bet I'll be back in 4 years. Now, I still might be wrong, but that does, but I tend to think, in my personal opinion, and I've been right a lot of the time when I just go with my gut feeling, is that I think he will be a Cavalier next year. I mean, I think it could happen. I mean, I don't mean next year, I mean in 4 weeks.
Yeah, it's going to happen fast. It's not going to be dragged out for a very long time. But you know what? It kind of reminds me of this. Are you familiar with the Amish term of Rumspringa?
No, I'm not with Rumspringa.
Okay, well let me kind of get you hip to the Amish, if I may. This thing is called a Rumspringa. It's a term for adolescents used in some Amish communities. The Amish, who are a subsect of the Anabaptist Christian movement, intentionally segregate themselves from other communities as a part of their faith. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The Rumspringa normally begins around the age of 14 to 16 and ends when a youth chooses baptism within the Amish church or instead leaves the community. Now, the reason I bring this up is because LeBron James is, in a couple of ways, or at least one significant way, I'll just focus on that, kind of living out his Rumspringa. So what happens is these kids, when they're becoming adults, they say, all right, now you can go use electricity, drive cars, go to the big cities. You can indulge and engage in the activities that you want, and then take your time. But maybe 4 years later, when your heat contract expires, you can come back to home, join us again once you've kind of had a chance to get this out of your system. So, kind of in a way, this is maybe the hometown kid's opportunity to take 4 years, go crazy, and then come back and get back on track again. Maybe not, and I'm not holding my breath, and I'm not going to be crippled like the sucker punch to the gut that I felt when he did what he did to Cleveland fans on national TV 4 years ago. But in a way, maybe there are some parallels between the Rumspringa and what LeBron had to do to go away for a few years, get it out of his system, get a couple of rings guaranteed, and then get back to work.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say LeBron's been taking off work over the last 4 years.
No, not just a jerk. Not just to spend your time ridiculously and just drinking beer and laying on the couch playing video games. I don't mean that. I mean to go have your fun. Go have your fun.
Yeah.
Go through your bachelor stage before you. And it took him a long time to marry his high school girlfriend too. A lot of him wanted to go have his fun and get on Saturday Night Live and get on the Beats by Dre, get into some of these deals and work on stuff.
Well, he came out with $30 million cash out of that one.
Yeah.
So I think that worked out nicely.
And he's also building a 35,000 square foot addition on his home, you told me?
Yeah, like I said, at the same point, why do you build that addition if you're going to be living in that house 2-3 months a year? And
because it's a mansion already.
I mean, here's the thing: is for sure he'll move back to Akron when he's done. But why build that addition now if you're not going to be living there for another 6 years?
It makes you wonder. So, I mean, I'm not holding my breath. I'm just saying. Maybe it was just him getting a taste of the real world, feeling maybe sheltered and restrained by Ohio, where there is a large Amish population, actually. Vanilla Ice came and did that show, whatever the heck it was called, on HGTV.
You know, it's hard for one of us, especially both of us, to sit there and fault someone for leaving Cleveland.
I left at 25. Yeah, both of us did it. I left at 25 to come to L.A. So did LeBron. He left at 25.
And I left at 22. So both of us have done it. You know, the majority of my friends have done it. And
I wasn't the best. I wasn't the best in my field, though. LeBron was the best in his field when he left.
Still, you saw bigger and brighter lights and you left. I mean, it is what it is.
It's a small world. I want to get out there. Yeah, I suppose.
You know, people like to experience other things, and being growing up here, spending from the day he was born to being in Ohio his entire life. You know, and when you go to cities like New York, and you're like, wow. You go to L.A. and people are blown away by it. I mean, they're blown away by it for a reason. I mean, the allure of those cities, especially, you know, living in L.A., I mean, it's great. You know, did it get exhausting after a while? Yeah, it did. And I love it. I mean, when I move back, yeah, I'd move back tomorrow. If everything works its course out, you know, I'd be back there. And I'd love to be. But, you know, right now it's not in the cards, and it doesn't mean it won't be in 3 months, 6 months. But from where I stand now, it's just like, I sit there and I can't sit there and rag on the guy for leaving because I did it too. I'd be a hypocrite. And I was upset when he left the Cavs because he left the hometown team. And I think that, I really believe that, I think almost all will be forgiven. You're going to have a few select fans that won't forgive him, and I think they're crazy. I really do. If he comes in there and wins and puts a winner on the floor, like I've been saying now for a few years, the second Kyrie threw the first alley-oop to him, those fans will be nuts. The arena will be louder than ever. You know, all those boos from 4 years ago when he walked into Quicken Loans Arena will turn into cheers. They really will.
Everybody loves a winner.
Everybody loves a winner. It doesn't matter. You know, Cleveland has notoriously booed Manny Ramirez, Albert Bell, Jim Thome. Now, I remember Manny a few years ago was cheered finally. Fans love him again. People cheered Albert Bell when he came out, you know, when he was out here a year or two ago. And Jim Thome, the second he was, you know, I was one of the few people that cheered Jim Thome in his first at-bat with the Chicago White Sox when he came back to Cleveland after being in Philadelphia for that time. And I remember I just didn't understand the hate for Jim Thome. I said to myself, this is the guy who didn't want to go through a rebuilding project in Cleveland. I said, I don't blame him. Philly offered him substantially more money. And he left. I don't blame him.
Yeah, and I think that
winning at that point.
And I think that was something too that the Tribe did not offer him that money either. It was different with the Cavs. We obviously offered max.
I was angry at the front office. I wasn't angry with Jim Thome. I was angry at the front office for going through a rebuilding process. You know, that took them until 2005 to even be relevant again. And you know,
I blame the front office mainly for letting Cliff Lee and CeCe Sabathia go, 2 Cy Young winners back-to-back years. That was hard to stomach.
Like I said, I have problems booing those guys because, you know, when Thome came back, I gave him a standing ovation. Me and my friend said, just don't understand the hate for Thome. I really don't. And then the second, we were also at his return game when he came into the Indians, when he came back. And I remember seeing, I was like, really, all these jackass fans who sat there and booed the guy, you know, just, you know, mercilessly, they just booed him. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I was like, these fans are hypocrites. I was like, really? I mean, I hate fans like that. And they said, and, you know, do I think Thome deserves a statue? No. But I'd much rather give it on the lines of Omar Vizquel or Kenny Lofton. But, you know, it's not up to me. I think Jim Thome, I don't think he's deserving of a statue. I think Vizquel would be the most. But getting back into the NBA talk here, I think the writing is on the wall. I mean, you can put little pieces together. It's like when LeBron was leaving, and then nobody put those pieces together for years. It was like a puzzle piece. It was like looking at a 3D puzzle you didn't know you were working on. And you just didn't know the puzzle was 3D. You took a puzzle out of a box. It was like a puzzle that was in the wrong box, and you were trying to put pieces together that weren't there, and you didn't have the image in front of you. And then once it was put together, you were able to say, oh, how did we not realize this the whole time? All the signs were there in front of us.
And you know what?
Exactly what.
Well, Pat Riley's speech, it reeked of desperation. Like he knows what's up, and he made, you know.
It was almost it almost reminded me of the Cavs, desperation in 2010 with putting on those stupid home signs around Cleveland.
But you know what it reminded me of too? Yes, that, but I was going to say the Dwight Howard, the Don't Leave Dwight banners that the Lakers hung out before he left. Similar thing.
I remember all my LA fans were calling Cleveland pathetic for what happened. And I remember sitting there going, you guys aren't pathetic for having these all around town. I could see one from my apartment in Hollywood. It was 20 stories high on Sunset and Vine.
Too little, too late,
I lived 8 blocks away. I lived over at Hollywood and Highland. I lived right across from the Lowe's Hotel in that apartment building right there. And I'm telling you right now, I could see that thing from 8 blocks away over Sunset and Vine. And plus there was another one a block from my apartment right above Supper Club.
And those were just it's too little, too late. That's it. It's just too little, too late. When you got to reach that point, it's already done. It's already decided. LeBron's taking his vacation, but I think he already knows what he's doing. He can say he's weighing all his options. I know that he is, but it just seems like in his heart of hearts, if I were a wagering man, I'm going to go against what Brian Windhorst says. I don't think he signs a 1-year opt-in with the Heat. Why? I don't think the 1-year opt-in makes any sense. Why are you going to sign a 1-year opt-in with their? Because it allows Miami no flexibility. You already know Wade's going to opt in. That means Bosh would opt in. You're sitting there with no flexibility, and you're going to yourself saying, what can we do to improve this team? Nothing. They're going to get their asses kicked again by the Spurs next year. And I don't know. I mean, like I said, because of LeBron, I say they make it out of the Eastern Conference next year. Because of LeBron, and there's so much crap. They might be able to. Well, that's what they said, too.
Here's the thing, though. If Carmelo goes to the Bulls, which I think they might, like I said, I think he goes to the Bulls or the Rockets. It's very hard for me to see him staying in New York. And Chicago is another one of those. Chicago's a big city. It's much cheaper than New York. It's a great city, too. It really is. Chicago's a fantastic city. Yeah, it's cold, but New York's cold in the winter, too. And, in Chicago, he can live almost a very similar lifestyle as New York. It's not New York, but it's the closest thing.
You could see Carmelo going there. That's been the story for a long time.
And, suddenly that would propel the Bulls as the front runners in the East. If the Bulls get Melo and Derrick Rose is healthy, even if Derrick Rose isn't healthy, the Bulls, if they would have added Melo to this year's team, would have won 60 games. They would have been the number 1 team in the East. Do I think they would have beaten Miami this year? Probably not. But you get Melo, you get Rose back. Suddenly, it looks like a really, really good team. And if I'm Melo, I stay in the Eastern Conference. I don't go to Houston because I still don't know if they're better than the Spurs next year.
They're going to beat up on each other like crazy out there in the West. You'd almost be a fool. You'd almost be a fool to do it.
Well, and that's the thing is, LeBron and Melo aren't stupid guys. They know exactly about the West.
Yeah, Carmelo left it.
It's like saying to yourself, okay, yeah, well, this dream is. I don't even know how to compare this to any other situation because it's almost like going to play for the Toronto Blue Jays. Because they've got a great roster, but knowing I'm not talking about 2014, talking, let's say, back in the day, knowing that knowing that the Red Sox and the Yankees were going to win the division and the wild card every year, and you had no chance. But you were going to go and take that chance anyways because they were better than the teams in the AL Central. But in the AL Central, you had your best chance of getting to the championship and winning the pennant, winning your division. And that's the only thing comparable here because it's very hard to differ. It's very hard to go about in changing sports in this particular one because I can't say that about the NFL. Football's such a crapshoot. Football's one game. Basketball, usually the best team comes out on top because it's a 7-game series and they have the chance to play each other so many times.
Well, I was watching. I think it was Numbers Never Lie, and they were talking about I think the odds makers would have the Cavs as a better likelihood to win the championship with LeBron on the team than the Heat if LeBron leaves the team. And you think about it, it's like an old Dwayne Wade and an overpaid Chris Bosh and nothing else, or a whole bunch of young talent and the best player in the league. You're obviously way better when you add the best player in the league, especially in a sport like basketball. So it's, it instantly shakes things up. It instantly changes the paradigm of those losers in Cleveland. It would just instantly change it. But it doesn't hurt having the number. I
think it's good for the NBA too because whenever it gets repetitive, people start to get bored with it. They do. I mean, if the Heat would have won this year and come back next year, I can tell you people would still watch, but people just get bored People get tired after it. When Jordan won 3 in a row, people were glad to see it end. People were. It was just, it was like I said, it just gets very repetitive. And then he came back and won. People were ready for Jordan again 2 years later. Came back, won 3 in a row. He was done. And that's when the NBA completely changed. But getting back to it just, people like to see something new in sports.
Right. Well, you know what? We're going to have a lot new going on next week with the NBA draft. I want to just kind of make a quick pivot here. Let's go through a quick mock draft with the Joel Embiid injury and how that's going to affect things. We're talking with NBA scout Zak Baris. Follow him on Twitter. He's at ZBaris. That's ZBaris. And I'm Brian Engelman. This is the Unhappy Hour here on the TNAM Radio Network at thenewamericanmedia.com.
The Unhappy Hour on thenewamericanmedia.com.